Today we will be going over junction objects and just relating creating many-to-many relationships. These relationships are going to be extremely helpful anytime you need to go a little deeper than just a parent-child relationship, which is the one-to-many. My name is Gabriel Marquez. Been with Kyazma for about 4 or 5 months now. I'm certified admin, advanced admin, sales cloud consultant, and developer. So I am happy to be here today to explain what we will be doing. Many-to-many relationships. So hopefully you can all see my screen. If there's any issues with sound, just to verify real quick before we start, if you can hear me, would you please type a message in the chat? Also, if you can see my screen, would someone please verify they can see the beautiful screen here with 3 components of a dashboard? Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. So, mouse over here. What we're going to do is the many-to-many relationship I want to create today. I wanted to show you guys an example of it. It's a pretty common one that I've seen a few people make. It's going to be between accounts and stores. So accounts could be related to many stores, and many stores can be related to many accounts. And the junction object is probably going to sound pretty familiar. It's going to be transactions. So every time there's a transaction is a child of a store because there's many transactions in a store. And transactions is also a child of accounts or contacts. Let's use contacts in this situation, excuse me. That'll be easier. A transaction is, there's many transactions, per person. So a person might have, a ton of different purchases he's made throughout any given time period. So let's go over here and let's actually just start building from scratch here. So we need to create a new object. We're going to need to create 2 new objects actually. We're going to have to create a transaction object and a store object. Since the store is going to be the parent, let's go ahead and create that first. So I'm going to go to Setup. And I'm just going to quick find this real quick. I'm just going to go Object, Create Objects. Took me straight to it. And I'll say New Custom Object. And I'll call this Store. Okay. Stores. No need for description. None of this really matters too much, but you'll probably want to allow reports and allow field history tracking. We're going to say it's deployed. Yes, we want them to be able to add notes. Sure, launch a new tab wizard after launch. And I'm going to say save and new. And my next one's going to be called transaction. Or here. Copy. Transactions. Paste. So now we have these both. And in deployment, let's see, yes. Save. Okay, so now that both objects are created, it's taking me to the wizard to just simply create a tab for it. So I'll come over here and just say, how about bank? Bank looks like a good one. That's about all we need. We're going to say as far as the visibility, default on for all these different profiles. Sounds good. We're going to include, it's saying right here, are we including it in, so I'm fine with it being included in all the different apps we have here. So I'll just say yes, save. And then, boom, takes us to the transaction object. Did notice transaction store. Okay, beautiful. We're good. So let's click on transaction here. And let's start building the relationship. So first thing we want to do is we want to start and basically tell this transaction that you are a child of both the, let's use contacts because it'll probably be easier to explain with, but let's use the contact object and the store object. So I'm going to say new custom field. And since when you do a lookup, there's two types of lookup relationships. There's lookup, which links one object to another as a child or parent, but it doesn't necessarily have to be linked. Like, you don't need this relationship to survive. Then there's master detail relationship, which is basically like this record just doesn't exist. It cannot exist without its master. So a transaction can't exist without having had a contact to make the transaction. Also, same thing goes for the store object. A transaction just simply cannot exist without the transaction simply can't exist without the store object either. So we're going to want to make these master detail relationships, and there's a few things that comes with it that comes with along with this relationship that we're really going to like. You know, as far as you can't delete, if you delete the master record, all the detail records are deleted. It makes sense because there's, I mean, without John Smith, you can't really track John Smith's transactions, so they wouldn't make sense alone. Also, a master detail relationship also allows for roll-up summaries, which are really nice, which basically you can take, like, if there's 10 records underneath the contact name, 10 different transactions, you can do roll-up fields on the actual contact record, like, you know, total money spent, you know, total transaction dollar value, or number of transactions, or average dollar value per transaction. You know, just a lot of different things you can roll up onto the contact record from the master detail, which you can't necessarily do from the lookout without some sort of code or app that helps you do it. So let's go ahead and get this master detail relationship created. We're going to go to master detail to contact. And yep, define contact. We want it visible to everybody. Yes, this is the page layout. There's only one, so it doesn't matter. Beautiful. And save and new. Next one we're going to create, which is extremely important here, is going to be the relationship to the store object. Okay, so we have those two relationships. Those are beautiful. Let's get some basic fields in here that we're probably going to want. I'm going to just make one like, let's go back actually. Let's see what we have already. So built in, it came with created by, last modified by, and name. Let's see if we can change the name to an auto number here. Auto, transaction, edit. Okay, so instead of having a record name, we don't really need to name a transaction. That just seems kind of absurd to have, like, you know, Johnny went to the mall, transaction number 103. So instead of having a transaction name and then also putting a transaction number as a separate field, I'm just going to put an auto number here. And that's the way our computer can keep track of it. Also, you can, or Salesforce can keep track of it. Also, you can, if you want, add a separate number field. So you can put in your own specific transaction number from like an external system, which will really help as well. So I'm just going to say an auto number, and I'll call this, display format can be, let's see, sounds good to me. Okay, starting number, let's keep it interesting and start with 4,000. Starting number. Okay, and let's go ahead and get some new fields in here. So I'm going to put some basic fields for a transaction, like what was their purchase? That'll probably be a text field. So I'll say their purchase description. Length, let's say 50. If you ever look at your bank statements, you usually don't have an epistle as far as your description goes, so we don't want to let it be too long. And let's make another one, save a new, let's call it price. We'll probably want price for the transaction. Oops. And sure, sounds good. And you know what? Actually, I think we're good there. Let's not get too complex. We got a contact, so in this transaction object, we're going to have a link to a contact, we're going to have a link to a store, we're going to have a transaction name, a price, a purchase description. You know what? Let's put an external number as well. Let's do that. Let's say number. We'll call it external transaction number. And I think we're done here. So the junction object is complete. Let's go back to that new object we created, the store object. And we have store name. You know what, let's just put a couple normal looking fields. Let's put a store. Let's say they had a phone number as well, probably. We'll just call this phone. And obviously, if you create a store object, you'd put a lot more fields like address, phone number, manager. You'd have a lot more different things you'd be recording. But in this situation, you know what? Let's just put a phone, and let's put a store number also. We have store numbers, so we keep track of it. Store number. So if there's 20,000 Best Buys, you know what Best Buy it is. Store number next. Save. Okay, so we have a name, a phone number, a store number. You know what? Let's call it good. Sounds good to me. And then let's go look at our contact object. Okay, so we have pretty basic information in here. This is no problem. We're going to worry about this. This is built into Salesforce. If we look at a transaction, we see here we just have some simple basic fields. Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at import data, what it would look like. So if I go to, here we go. Okay. So I have a little spreadsheet here that just has some basic information. I have 3 transactions. And normally you'd see, even though there's 3 separate objects in Salesforce, you'd see it all like in one straight list. You know, and a lot of times when you import data into Salesforce, it's the same type of information. You know, you have account name, opportunity name, contact name, transaction name. All of it's just like all the way across on one large Excel spreadsheet. This is pretty common. So this is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to break it out quite yet and just say, okay, so let's assume we have this spreadsheet. And you can see here we have store information. We have contact information, and we have transaction information. Okay, 3 of each here, and it's all in the same spreadsheet. So we're going to import this, but we're not going to be able to import it one by one. So we're going to need to layer this. So there's kind of an order of operations on how things need to go in. So since transactions are children. Well, especially in this case, is a child of both store and account, we're going to need to put, or excuse me, I keep saying account, store and contact. We're going to need to put both store and contact in our system before we can even capture transaction data. And we're going to build a relationship. So we're going to do that all together right now, real quick. So we're going to say transaction demo, beautiful. I'm going to go back to my browser here, and I'm going to go ahead and use Data Loader. There's a lot of different tools. I'm sure there's probably other Ask the Admins you've probably been a part of where they've discussed data loading, but in this case, I like data loader IO. So I'm going to log in with my demo credentials. Gabe at 65. Hopefully I can remember my login. Okay, now it's going to ask and say, can data loader access permission? Yes, we want data loader to mess things up and make them better. So it is web-based, so if you have a slow internet connection, well, that's probably going to ruin your whole Salesforce experience altogether because we're all in the cloud. Okay, so I'm going to go New Task, and I don't want to talk too much about how data loader works. Just what I want you everyone to pay attention to is just the relationships we're building, the order of operations. So I'm going to do an import. I'm going to insert first. I'm going to insert contact. Since contact and store are both parents, and neither of them is dependent on the other, it really doesn't matter if I import contact first or store first, but I just feel like contact, so it comes first in the alphabet. Let's do this. So I'm going to say contact, upload. I'm going to say, let's see, where's my file? Transaction demo, beautiful. Not the correct format. This is a great learning experience for everybody. This needs to be CSV. Excuse me. Limited. Save. And as with all CSVs, every time you try to save it, it gives you 20,000 are you sure's. Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's try this again. Transaction demo. Okay, now I have all the fields, but it doesn't necessarily mean I need to map them all. Okay, I only want to map a few right now, because right now I'm just inserting contact information. So I'm gonna, eventually we'll get everything, but right now just contact information. So I got first name, last name. Let's do contact phone. Let's just look for phone. You know what? Business phone. How about that? Great. So I have these three. Everything else, let's see. This is all store information. This is all transaction information. And if you notice in my spreadsheet, this is like, if you've ever done data loading, you know that this is painfully easy. I already have it cleaned. Now you can see all my store data is together and named beautifully. My contact information is together. It's named beautifully. And transaction data is together. In your own spreadsheet, you'll usually have to do a little bit of hunting. You'll probably want to rename things on your CSV file before you try to do an import, just so you know what the heck column this is you're looking at. And it does try to give you previews, but preview, if you have, like I said, it like a, as you've probably seen in the past, if you have a million, you know, if you have like 50 columns or 50 different records you're importing, or 50 different fields you're importing, this is going to be really confusing really quick. So you probably want to make sure you make clear what object it's going into. Maybe if you put like store.storename, store.number, store.phone or something. So then when you're doing your imports one at a time, you know, okay, these are the fields I need for this import. Make sure they're all mapped. Okay. So let's save and run. Run. And it's going to do a little insert. This is where the Jeopardy music usually comes into play. Let's see, and if you're, oh, there we go, beautiful. So we get 3 successes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this success file. And every data loading software is different. It might appear somewhere else, but either way, we want the success file. So what the success file does for me is it gives me this ID number, okay? And it gives me comments in case there was an issue. So I'm going to delete the comments, I don't need them. But I do need this ID because eventually we're going to relate all these, right? So I want to know the contact ID. I'm going to call this contact ID. And then I'm going to save as, just so I can find it easily. desktop, contact, insert. Sure, let's call it that. Yes. Get out of here. Save, yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one down. You look in here. It will force me to log in again. Oh. 65demo.com. And of course, I'll type the password wrong the first time. Okay, so we go look at contacts. Usually want to do this after any import. Yep, Sam Hamilton, Bill Jenkins, great. John Smith, perfect. Okay, so I am going to go back to data loader. Yep, looks good. I'm going to do another import. Next import I'm going to do is a second parent object. Store. And this time I'm going to use the success file. And the reason I'm going to use that is because I want that key. I don't need it yet, but I want all the key, all the Salesforce IDs to be on the same file eventually to build the relationship. So where the heck is the file at? Contact info. Okay, so even though I don't need this right now, eventually I'll want it. So I have it here on this file. Store, yep, store insert. So we want store name, store number, and you know what, store phone. So that seems to be everything for this parent. Beautiful. Everything else, like you see, is contact information, transaction information. Okay, beautiful. Save and run. And 3 successes. Let's go take a look at stores just for the heck of it too. So if we look at, oops. Oh, you know what? We never made a tab for them. Okay, let's not worry about that. They're in there. 3 successes. We'll see them in a second. Let's go to import. Actually, excuse me. Let's look at our success file. Okay, so now we have a success file. And not only do we have the contact ID, but now we have next to it the store ID. So, because we did this sneaky way that's really efficient, that keeps all the information together, it's very easy for us now to do a transaction import, this junction object, and link it to his 2 parents. So we have their IDs right here. So let's go ahead and, last but not least, create the transaction, the transaction insert, where it links for these parent accounts. So I'm going to go to File, we're going to save as so we know where to find it. If you know where your downloads folder is and it's not completely cluttered, then more power to you, leave it there. I'm going to Okay, looks like I got disconnected here. I was talking to myself. Not sure how long I've been gone, but as you saw, depending on how long I've been gone here, we first imported the parent accounts. Then from the success files, we had the IDs from the store, and we had the ID from the contact. So we did an import just now, where we imported all the transaction information with and built that relationship by having that ID there as well. So let's go ahead and we're done here. So let's go ahead and go to Salesforce and take a look. Let's do a refresh. And let's take a look at some of our recent contacts here. So Sam Hamilton, as you can see, is transaction 4002, so we're going to click on that. And boom! So you see here, Sam Hamilton, he went to Walmart and bought an umbrella for $13. And the transaction ID is 678, and the transaction is 4002. This is just more of a Salesforce name here. We can also click from here. You can go straight to the store. Click on Walmart. You can see here's Walmart. That's their phone number. Here's their store number. And here's all of Walmart's transactions. Had there been multiple, there would be more here. Let's go back to, so let's start with a couple things. So I'm looking at the store here, and I probably want to know more information about transactions. So let's go to view, let's go to edit layout here. So I see this transaction. I'm going to click the wrench. I'm going to say from the store object, I'd like to also see holy cow, there's a lot of available fields. Can you see the contact name? Can we see transaction price? Can we see the description? Can we see the create date? Pretty good. And another thing we could have put in there is a transaction date, because your transaction date is probably not always going to be your create date. Depending how you use Salesforce, it might be, but that would have been a good idea to add a transaction date in there as well. But okay, first name, price. Let's put the price after, and what I like this up here. Let's try that. And let's go to save layout. And as you can see here, from the store detail, you can quickly see just a quick view of, okay, there's a transaction, create date. On the 18th, Sam purchased an umbrella for $13. Okay, and you can add more information as there was, as needed. So let me go ahead and click on transaction. Let's go back to Sam Hamilton. So here is the same thing. We have transaction, but this related list needs to be edited. So from the contact detail page, what information do we want to see? I'm going to go to edit layout, hit the wrench, and as you can see, we're reaching through the transaction record. So we're going from the contact record to the transaction record to the store record. We're reaching through and grabbing information from that store object and pulling it all the way through. So it's passing through the junction. That's kind of, I guess that's what it's called, a junction object. You're bringing the information through from one side to the other as many to many. So we can say we want to know what the store name is. Well, let's call the store phone too. Why not? Store name. We want to know the create date of the transaction. And of course we want to know the description and probably the price. And that should be good. That's okay. And go up and save. And you can see right here, from the contact record, as many transactions as there were, you'd see transaction name, store name, you reach through and grab what the store name was, phone number for the store, transaction create date, and you can see that they ordered an umbrella for $13. And now, since we updated that layout, if we go to any other contacts who have been purchasing lately, like John Smith, you can see as well, John Smith from Best Buy, he bought some rollerblades. Doesn't make much sense unless they were like rollerblades with speakers, I suppose, but same format. And last but not least, we can see, what was his name? Bill Jenkins. Bill Jenkins, okay, yep, transaction name, store number, from Radio Store, he bought a party hat. That also must have been a radio party hat, you know, $46. So that's all there is to it. Transactions, contacts. Let's go ahead and real quick to finish this off. I think I need to create a thing for it. 1 second. Tabs. New. We need to create a new tab for store. I never did. I skipped over this, so let me just create one real quick. Let's call it box. And next. And next. Please. So not only are the contacts, not only can you see the transaction data in the contacts underneath the store, but you can actually go to transactions, look at all transactions, period, in any list view you want. You know, you can obviously you can edit these list views and add just a lieu of fields. I think all sorts of crazy. Save. Too many. Oops. Done now. Okay, so now you have a ton of fields here, and you can make the list views however you want, and you can see everything having to do with all your transactions, all your contacts, and same with stores. All of your stores can be managed separately as well. Let's get some info in there as well. Beautiful. Okay. Store number, phone number, store name, and then random, just a ton of ownership information. Okay, so that is all I have for you today on the Ask the Admin, many-to-many relationships. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, have a nice day.